This is Creepy and Geeky, a part of the Morbidly Beautiful Podcast Network. Welcome to Creepy and Geeky. I'm your host, Robert, and on today's episode, Violet Hammond joins me to talk about Avengers Infinity War. Violet is the managing director of a theater in New York. She's also been a guest on several other podcasts, including Frame to Frame, Pick a Disc, and Den of 10. Welcome to the show, Violet.
Thanks for having me back. I'm very excited.
Yeah, excited to have you back.
Yeah, we had a good time last time.
Yes, we did. And we should have a good time this time as well. Avengers Infinity War is a good movie. I really like it. It's one of the better ones. And of course, you know, as we talked about in the Winter Soldier episode, that these movies are written by the same writers and directed by the same directors. Christopher Marcus, Stephen McFeely wrote these, and the Russo brothers, of course, directed these. And this was kind of like, you know, the path that the MCU was taking. Kevin Feige sat down and was just like, you know what, we like what you guys did with Winter Soldier. Let's keep that going. They did it through Civil War, through Infinity War, and then into Endgame.
Yep.
And so it's you know, it was a good roadmap. I think without these particular people helping to guide the MCU after this point, that I wouldn't say it's meandered, but I definitely think they kind of lost the plot a little bit.
I would agree.
In phase 4. I think they're trying to refine it in phase 5. But I think phase 4 was definitely a transitional period after these movies. And I'll of course get into that when I start focusing on those movies. But this is right where things start to end for what we knew. What we've been going through for 10 plus years at this point. And so
it's a long time.
So Infinity War is the beginning of the end.
Yes.
You know, it's the beginning of a two-parter, beginning of everything that we had like known up to this point, everything involving Iron Man and Captain America and everybody who'd been coming through all this. You know, it's and this movie really kind of throws everybody in there. Like everybody who's been up in the MCU up to this point is in this movie.
Yep.
And it's a really good, I wouldn't say it's a fun movie. There's definitely fun parts to it, but having rewatched this movie, like, and it's been a little while since, like, I rewatched it not too long ago, but without really focusing on it, and wanting to focus on it this time for the podcast. I saw it with kind of newish eyes. And of course, every time I go and watch these movies, I watch them, you know, initially any movie I go to watch, I just go to watch and absorb it all the first time. And then, you know, subsequent viewings are the ones where I go, okay, you know, what did I miss the first time? You know, and so this one really got down to it. And this one, when you really look at it, and I know it, even after the first viewing, this one's a sad movie.
Yes,
but this one,
very much so.
This one, every fucking beat of this movie is fucking sad. Like,
yes,
there's funny bits here and there, but this is a fucking downer. Like, I've heard so many people say that Infinity War is their favorite Marvel movie, and I'm like, why
no,
this movie, like, even
why?
out of this and Endgame, I'm like, Endgame is my favorite out of those two. Like, it's not my favorite of the entire MCU, but like, out of these two, Endgame is the much more fun, more action packed. It's got some down moments, but it's not as down as this movie is. This movie's a fucking downer. It's so sad, like, throughout the whole thing. Anyway,
I wound up staying up till 3 a.m. because Because I watched this and I pulled like a Return of the Jedi. Like I can't watch Empire Strikes Back without watching Return of the Jedi, so I had to put Endgame on.
Oh
I'm like, I
no,
can't. I'm like, I can't go to sleep like
another three
this.
hours.
No, I skipped the last hour. If you go to the last hour, you get like right before.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah,
that's another podcast, so I won't get
yeah.
there. But yeah, like I had to Return to the Jedi. I couldn't do it. I'm like, I can't
That's
leave
so
it like
funny.
this. How am I supposed to sleep like this? I couldn't do it. I'm up till
That's too
3
funny.
a.m. writing my angry notes.
Oh
Oh,
no. Yeah, no, this movie. Oh, well, I
mm.
mean, and I don't want to go beat for beat because I don't like doing that. But I definitely want to hit hit
We'll
hit
be
hit
here
the
for
major.
days.
Oh, I know. This
We'll
episode would
be
end up being just as long as
as
the
the
movie
movie.
itself. But
Yeah.
but I do want to. I want to do. I do want to
Hmm.
the big moments.
Yeah.
And one of the first moments we get is
Uh,
the realization that Thanos says, and because we got it at the end of Thor Ragnarok that Thanos' ship
that
was
the ship
there.
was there. Yes.
Yeah, and they were
Ugh.
like, oh crap. And so then we get the aftermath of all that. Everybody is decimated. Everybody, like, I don't know how there's any Asgardians actually in New Asgard
Right.
to be there. Like,
They explain
how
that
did they get
somewhere.
away? Like,
I they did
I
explain that somewhere. I can't
did
remember
they? Because
what
I don't
they
remember.
did. I think they did. I think there was another. I think Valkyrie was on
There was
another
they
part of
had,
the ship and they escaped. I think that
yeah,
was the explanation. I'm not.
they would
It's been a
have to have.
while. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
been a while, so I can't. I can't. I might be making that up, but I'm pretty sure that is what happened. I think that there was either
yeah,
another part of the ship or some kind of escape pod that Valkyrie took
yeah.
them off.
That makes sense.
But they had to have because everyone is
Yeah,
gone. It's
everybody's
absolutely
gone.
heartbreaking.
Yeah.
It like
Well,
what a way
and
to start this movie. God.
yeah, and Thor is like beat to hell. Um,
Mm,
Loki's beat to hell. Like Heimdall's lying on the floor dying.
dying.
And so we get this moment of all of this, and just Thanos and his Black Order are there, and it's just
Yeah.
it's like devastating. Like, because at this point
Yes.
too, Thanos has two of the stones. And he's
Hmm.
there to get the third one,
He's
which
got
of course,
he's I think he has one. I think he has power because he took it from uh he took that one and then he's there to get the Tesseract.
yeah, but he had
So
the
this
space
is
stone too already,
did he?
because that's how he teleports out.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
You're right.
So
Yeah.
yeah, because he's got power in space. So yeah,
So he's got two. Okay. Yeah. And then
yeah.
he's there for the third.
Then he
Yes.
gets the third, and
Hmm.
then he gets to nowhere where there's the fourth,
Right.
and then gets the time stone, then gets yeah.
Yeah.
I have to like I have to keep track of it all because it's like, wait, what did he
What?
have?
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, by the time we even jump into here, he's already got
He's
two
already got
stones.
two. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
It's
so
taken him 10 years. He has zero. And then all of a sudden, in like
yeah,
two
all of a
days,
sudden now
he
he's got
gets it all
like
done.
well, and then like we get that end credit bit in what is it? Was it in Ultron? Where
Oh,
he's
he's
like,
like, I'll
fine, I'll
do it
do it
myself.
myself. Yeah. It's like you should have done it yourself in the first place.
Can't
Like
find any good help these days.
see, this is what drives me crazy about this Thanos too, is
Oh,
the Thanos in the comic books is much cooler, much more psychotic. And
mm,
not I wouldn't say cooler, but he's more powerful and more um psychotic, for sure.
okay.
Because so the difference is, and this isn't something I've gone into yet, because this is really our first encounters with Thanos in any meaningful way.
Yes.
Um, and so the Thanos in the comic books is in love with death.
Yes.
And in the Marvel universe, in the comic books, there is a physical personification of death. It's a
Hmm.
feminine version, a feminine skeleton in a hooded cloak. And occasionally she wears a humanoid face, but most of the time
Mm.
she's just kind of skeletal. And so he's actually in love with this personification of death. Um, but so she kind of puts him on the trail of gaining these in the in the comic books they're gems, not stones. So
Yes.
they're so he's put on the trail of these infinity gems because he is nothing to her. He doesn't have enough power to rate, no matter how many people he kills or anything else. And there's a huge, way more backstory going on because he goes back to the 70s and he has encounters with Adam Warlock. And Adam Warlock has this group, this kind of team of people with him, which includes the original version of Drax, and Gamora and Pip the Troll. And so there's this whole backstory that goes into there. Thanos dies at one point, gets encased like in stone, and is dead for many years, and then comes back sometime in the late 80s, mid to late 80s, in the Silver Surfer comic books. And he encounters the Silver Surfer and then starts the road to gaining the Infinity Gauntlet. So, so all this to say that the way he gets the stones slash gems is different in the comic books. It's a much more, to me, it's a much more interesting journey because most of the gems that he has to get are held by various members of what are known as the Elders of the Universe. And the Elders of the Universe is this group of people who are, they were the last members of their planet, and when of their species, and when that species, when they become the last members of their species, they attain immortality. So they become the Elders of the Universe. Among those that we've met in the MCU are the Grandmaster and the Collector.
Oh, cool. Okay.
So we don't know that in the MCU. They haven't really pointed that out, which has been
Yeah.
frustrating. I'm like, come on, guys.
Yeah.
Because I
They
think it's an
haven't given us
interesting,
that.
yeah, they haven't really explored the, we've seen bits and pieces, like in Thor Love and Thunder, we get we finally see it, Eternity. But there's these cosmic aspects, and death is one of them. And so that's where I'm kind of getting to all this
Right.
long-winded explanation of all this. That Thanos is in love with this personification of death. And he wants to prove himself to her, and so he goes and gathers these infinity gems. And then once he gains them all and he becomes basically pretty close to the most powerful person in the universe, death now is like, well, now I'm not worthy enough for you. So yeah, so it's just like he can't win either way. And so, and his whole goal to prove his love to her is that was the whole goal, was to gain the Infinity Gauntlet so that he could snap and wipe out half the universe and basically kill all these people to prove to her how much he loves death.
Gotcha.
So they had to change his motivations for the MCU because they hadn't gone through all that in the MCU, and so it makes it, to me, a weird motivation. I get his reasonings, don't get me wrong. He goes through his reasonings through this movie, about how his planet was on the verge of collapse and he had to kill half of it to, or he came up with the idea of killing half the populace to balance everything.
Yes.
And so then then he starts his campaign across the universe of taking his Black Order and everybody and going across the universe and killing half of everybody on every planet. And how, and he tells Gamora through the course of this movie that, on her planet where he did this, that now, when she was there, they were on the verge of collapse, and now everybody is happy, everybody's well fed and everything. And so while that's all well and good, that his motivations, and it's something that I heard from later on, is that whenever he snaps, and I'm jumping way ahead, whenever he snaps and just like decimates all life, half of all life in the universe, according to the writers, and I think the directors, I'm not sure, I'd have to go back and look, but back when somebody asked them, they're like, did that mean all plant and animal life? And they said yes. I'm like, then you put it at status quo. Then you
Yeah.
literally made everything exactly where it is, just
Right.
lesser.
Yeah.
So the goal was null and void. Then
Yeah. It's
your
dumb.
end goal was null and void. So that's where I was going with all this, because Thanos is an idiot.
Yeah.
So
And like,
and we're gonna get
why
into
is
more
it
of
your
it, but yeah,
business? It's like
yeah,
it's none of your business. Stay in your lane. Why are you bothering everybody?
yeah.
Like,
So that's where I wanted to go with all that, was
yeah.
just to get to that point, was just because all of this is just like, I at least appreciate that Thanos in the comic books is so psychotic that
Mm-hmm.
his motivations are just, he's in love with death and wants to kill everybody to prove himself to her. That,
Yeah, that makes more sense.
I mean, it doesn't make more sense, but it's actually a
Yeah.
motivation I can get behind, in terms of, instead of just killing people because you think it's the right thing to do,
Right.
um
I mean,
to save the rest of the universe, which
yeah.
nobody asked for.
No, nobody
So
asked for it. I'd rather psychopaths gonna psychopath than, just getting in everybody's business, making things worse.
yeah,
That's all it is. It's like a giant medal.
yeah. So
Like, guy, nobody asked for
but
this.
so I going back to the beginning, because I
Sure.
very much veered hard all the way off. um but going back to the beginning with Thor and Loki, and Thanos and him getting the two stones. But that's, I think that's why I got off target, because I thought the journey of him getting the stones was more interesting in the comic books than
Mm-hmm.
it was, because they actually did, he was in the Silver Surfer comic books, and then they veered off and created a 2 issue prestige limited edition series called Thanos Quest,
Mm.
and where he went and got the infinity gems. And so I thought that was interesting, and then it tied back into Silver Surfer, and then went into the Infinity Gauntlet
Yeah.
miniseries that they did. um and people should really go check that out though too. Like, if you like these movies, definitely go check out the Thanos Quest series, and the Infinity Gauntlet. I believe they're collected together in various editions. I'd have to look it up, and I'll
Mm-hmm.
try to look it up and figure out what's the best option. But yeah, but I think that by the time we're here, he's already got the 2 stones. We don't get to see how he got them. Um, and all we see is, we come into this just devastating scene. And like we said, Thor's beat the shit, Loki's beat the shit, and Heimdall's on the floor dying.
Dying.
And they're trying to, Thor is just being Thor. He's trying to, be big and bad, and and everything. It's not working for him. Loki's
Mm-hmm.
trying to weasel his way out of it as usual. Um, and Loki pays the price. I mean, the
Yes.
Loki we all know and love from this timeline is gone.
Correct.
Yeah,
He is.
he is
Yes.
just completely gone. Um, and it's disappointing, because you could see, at least through Ragnarok, there was some growth, not a lot of growth, but some growth.
Nah,
Um,
he had a great character arc. He had growth.
he did. No, he
Yeah.
did have growth, but I mean, he was still being Loki. Like, you know what I mean? Like, at the end
Well,
of Thor Ragnarok, and he's about to betray Thor, and Thor like
of
pulls one
course.
over on him. Loki's gonna be Loki no matter what.
That yes, he's always going to
So
be like that, but he
yeah,
does you can see him grow. That was
yeah.
oh, I was when I saw this movie in the theater the first time, I took a metal, like a stainless steel 32-ounce water bottle full of Chardonnay because I read all the spoilers
Oh
because
no.
yes, no, but I always had reasons because I knew I needed to know what was going on so that I could comfort my son. So I was in the first 15 minutes, he's gonna lose like 2 of his favorite characters. And
Yeah.
me too. I was horrified. So I'm sitting there and I'm sitting here trying to do the math. I think was this 2018?
Think so. Let me look.
So he was 6. So we were sitting there and Thanos chokes
Yeah,
out
2018.
Loki. Yeah, so he was 6. So we're sitting there and Thanos chokes out Loki and he screams in the middle of the theater, "This is why I didn't want to see this movie." And I'm crying. I'm like, I know. We have 2 hours and 40 minutes left. Let's just push through. So
Oh no.
I
Yeah.
knew,
No.
yeah. So I had to be prepared because if I was a disaster, then he wasn't going to have anybody to turn to. So for this and for Endgame, I read all the
Yeah.
spoilers first before going in.
Yeah. I
I
mean, I
had to
can
be
see that,
prepared.
especially with younger
Yeah.
kids and everything. That makes sense. But
Yes.
yeah, no, I just like, yeah, this movie just kills you right from the beginning, and you're just like,
Yeah.
okay, well, like, and we don't know what happens to Thor for a little bit either.
Mm-hmm.
And and the Hulk appears, he goes toe to toe with Thanos for a moment,
Ugh.
before getting the crap beat out of him, and getting in what is Heimdall's last
Mm.
act of life, and sends him through the Rainbow Bridge back to Earth.
Yes.
Um,
And
and
Mark Ruffalo is so good in this movie. Like,
oh
I just
yeah,
want to say, he's so convincingly terrified the entire
oh yeah,
time that it's great.
oh
But
yeah,
that's also why it's so hard to watch this movie. And I think we mentioned it when we talked about Winter Soldier in terms of how they put in so much work to get you to know these characters. So it's
mm-hmm.
really like watching your friends get beat up,
Yeah,
get hurt, get killed. Like you're so invested because of all the time you've spent with them
yeah.
that it's heartbreaking. It's so hard. It's a difficult
Well,
watch.
and this is the thing that other, like, attempts at trying to create movie universes always fail at,
Mm-hmm.
is that they never give you enough time with the characters before they try to pull one over on you,
Yeah.
and to make you really care about the characters. We have spent multiple, like, years, like over 10 years, 2008 to 2018. By the
Mm-hmm.
time Infinity War comes around, it has been 10 years with
10
the
years.
MCU. We've had multiple movies with all of these characters crisscrossing back and forth between them all, and getting to know them and getting to live in their lives, as as much as we've been able to. Um and we've gotten to know them. Like, we've, at this point, we'd already had the full um Iron Man trilogy, the full
Mm-hmm.
Cap trilogy, the full, at that point, Thor trilogy,
Mm-hmm.
um plus 2 Avengers movies, plus all the assorted other movies that came out. And so we'd already been invested so much in all these, that, yeah, this movie, like we knew going into this, like anybody who knows things, like, and especially anybody who'd read the comic books, you
Mm-hmm.
knew the 1-2 punch of this movie, that at the end of this movie, a lot of people were going to be gone.
Yes.
And so, and you could kind of feel it anyway, even coming up to it, like anybody who knew, like, even if you didn't know the comic books, you kind of had an inkling that some people were going to die.
It was on the
um
wind. Yes.
yeah. And so, and it's so heartbreaking for the people who die before the snap.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's just because there's no getting those people back.
No.
So people like, um
Gamora.
um Gamora, Loki, and
Mm-hmm.
Vision,
And Vision.
they all die before the snap. And so there's no really getting them back, and the ways we've gotten any of them back have been basically variants.
Right.
And and there, it's just not quite the same. Um and that's the thing, like, going into the whole Gamora of it all too. Like,
Mm-hmm.
we built up with her in the 2 Guardians movies, and the relationship between her and Peter Quill
Mm-hmm.
had grown and blossomed, and you really see it in this movie how close
Yes.
they've become, over that time. And like, her death is so heartbreaking because, like, at least with Loki, you're there for it. Thor was there for it, and as much as
Right.
it hurts, he was there.
Mm-hmm.
nobody was around with Gamora. Like
No.
she just gets taken by Thanos, and they find out later that she's dead.
Yeah.
And that, and Nebula has to be the one to tell them,
Yes.
and it's just like he came back, but she didn't. And
Yeah.
he has the stone, so
Mm-hmm.
something happened.
Something happened. Yeah.
Um, and it's
No.
just
Yeah.
this this movie, and like, yeah, of course we get Gamora back. But again, it's from an earlier time, and
Mm-hmm.
those relationships didn't come together the same way, and so everything after that point, and you get it later in Guardians 3,
Yep.
that you find how much those relationships are just gone.
Gone.
Um,
It was
and
difficult
there's
watching this,
and it's so,
having
yeah,
seen Guardians 3, because
yeah,
they were so cute together. I
yeah,
was like, this is awful. I mean, I find Chris Pratt insufferable in this movie, but their scenes are
yeah,
really cute. Yeah, I do not buy the whole like Thor Star-Lord shenanigans. I was like, thank you, but no. Let's move on. Just hang out with Rocket and Groot, because this like it's like just shh,
yeah,
shut up. Like
yeah.
he is. He's insufferable in this. Absolutely. But their scene was so
But that's
cute.
the character, at least, so
Yes.
at least it's in keeping with the character, and he's just like, and that's what kills me too. And again, we're jumping all over the place,
We
but
are.
but this is my show.
Yeah.
And but that point where they're fighting Thanos on Titan,
Mm-hmm.
and like, and they almost
They
have
are
it, but
so close.
Peter can't not be Peter.
I know.
And it's just like, oh, but why, dude? Like,
There's an
yeah,
awful lot of people in this movie who just are who they are, and it's gonna happen no matter what. And that, yeah,
this,
that is
like, you,
it's coming off of his hand. It's
yeah,
coming off of his hand.
yeah,
Why?
yeah. Peter Parker, the other
Oh,
Peter,
yeah.
he
Oh,
sits there and he's almost got it off,
so close.
and he grabs it back, and it's like,
Ugh.
oh man, dude. So this is what's interesting too, though. There is a scene in the comic books in the Infinity Gauntlet storyline where they get the glove off of him,
Mm-hmm.
and they restore everything, and it's not the same. There wasn't a 5-year gap in the comic books where like things were just devastated and everything like that. It
Mm-hmm.
was pretty. They had this huge fight. There was a whole nother super powered guy involved, Mephisto. He's basically Marvel's version of Satan.
Cool.
um and yeah, no, it's like there's so much going on. Like, really read the comic books, because the comic books are very interesting and awesome. um so it's just, I need to get back on track. But
We're all over,
going
but it's
back,
okay.
I know, going back to the beginning, because
Sure.
Thor, but just past that, the Hulk lands
Mm-hmm.
on Earth, and and with in Doctor Strange's Sanctum Sanctorum,
Mm-hmm. We get the beginning of Stephen and Tony's fantastic
Stephen and
dynamic.
Tony, yep, yep, the two the two most egotistical, um like, so sure of themselves guys who constantly fuck things up, um
Yes,
and then have to fix their mistakes.
pretty much. Yeah.
Yeah, and so, and it's great, and they're what it was, the mustache bros.
Yes.
So there was
No, I
something in
love
there
their
in the
dynamic.
comic books. Yeah, no, they've got a great dynamic, because
Yeah.
they both know they're the best at what they do, and
Mm-hmm.
they are just like, their ego unchecked.
Yep.
um and it's great. So, because, like, while Tony definitely has people who hold him in check,
Mm-hmm.
between Pepper and Rhodey and everybody else, nobody gives him shit like Strange does.
No.
um Strange goes toe to toe with Tony on a level that nobody, because like Pepper and Rhodey, they're still a level of, they give him shit, but they also can't keep him in check.
No,
um
because he
and
plays them. He knows how to play them.
yeah, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and he doesn't know how to play Strange, and
Not
Strange
at
can't
all.
be played.
No.
And so so it's fun to see that dynamic every step of the way too, because like, going to the end. Strange gives up the fucking farm on this one.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, I know
and
he has a
Strange,
reason, but
yeah,
oy,
and we don't know the reason yet, but there is definitely a reason, and it's just it devastates Tony. Like,
yeah,
because I mean,
it's a betrayal.
they lose, yeah, and
Yeah.
they lose, and Strange is like, look, there was no way to win,
No,
and
it's
um,
some insane number, 14,605,000.
yeah,
And this is the one way that we win. Like,
yeah, but we
God.
have to win by losing first. So,
He's
and
playing the long game, the really long game.
it's so crazy too, like to play such a long game like that, but that's the only way to win.
It's the
It's
only
like,
way.
yeah. So
Ugh.
anyway,
Yes.
well, hit me with some of your notes since I'm jumping all
Okay.
over the place. This
You're
is
good.
hard I'm like, because
Well,
I'm
because
going noteless. I'm just going, okay, what
it's
do I
a lot.
remember?
It's a lot to talk about.
It is a
I
lot to talk about.
I haven't seen, like I said, I haven't seen the whole movie in a really long time
Right.
because usually I'll just jump around and watch some scenes and then I skip to like the last hour of
Right.
Endgame. So this scene that I was like, wow, these are really, really good filmmakers was that scene in at the beginning with Tony and Steven and Wong and Bruce when he's telling them about what happened on the ship and then Tony
Yeah.
realizes what's happening outside. And the way
Yeah.
all you see is him walking to the door and you can see people through the glass running around, but you don't really know what's going on. And then like the unveiling of the chaos was filmed so well. That
Yeah.
was great. The tension as he's heading toward that door, I was like, this is a really well shot scene. Congratulations, guys.
Yeah.
Um,
And that's what's interesting with these guys too, because like, and I mentioned it back in the Winter Soldier episode. The Russo brothers come from like sitcoms. They come from
Community.
Community.
Yeah.
Like, and I love Community, don't get me wrong.
Mm-hmm.
The reason why they got the MCU job was because of the episodes they did with the paintball.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the paintball episodes, and those were shot so well, so cinematically, and they've been doing it since Winter Soldier. They've done so many great shots and so many cool scenes, and this just continues that. They were obviously the best choices
Yes.
for doing these massive stories.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm glad that Kevin Feige recognized that and transitioned away from the guy who was doing the first couple of Avengers movies, and then
Yes.
yeah, I'm not going to name it.
No.
But but then we get the Russo brothers, and they carry that torch very well. So
Yes. And the
yeah.
changes in the vibe are handled so well
Oh
too.
yeah,
Like when you
yeah,
go from place to place, like it's really, really
yeah,
done so well. You can
yeah,
tell like the signature of each group is there, but still
yeah.
it doesn't feel like it's all over the place or all jumbled
No,
up. It feels
no.
very
The
focused.
Yeah, they do a good job at maintaining everybody's original voices, and the same flavors, because the Russos are directing like even the Guardians of the Galaxy, but they're keeping their um James Gunn like tones,
Mm-hmm.
because they know their characters at this point. And James Gunn did also help consult
Yes,
for those scenes. And so that's
which is
what's
great.
nice, is that it was a total team effort in
Yes.
this way. That they had these other directors come in and help keep things tonally consistent. And that's what I really liked about when a lot of people give the Marvel universe, the Marvel movies, shit about
Mm-hmm.
being kind of same and everything. And I get it. Don't get me wrong. I do see it. I just think that consistency isn't necessarily a bad thing.
Mm-hmm.
I think that keeping an overall similarity and everything, while giving little touches of different um like sensibilities and stuff like that
Yep.
is good.
Yeah.
And that's when you bring in somebody like Sam Raimi or somebody in like Taika Waititi, good or bad. I think Ragnarok's more successful than Love and Thunder is.
Yeah,
Um,
that's a general consensus.
yeah, but I
Yeah.
also think Ragnarok was better because it was written by somebody else, and Taika Waititi came in and put his sensibilities on that story and kind of maybe rewrote some stuff. Whereas Thor:
That's a
Love and
good
Thunder
point.
is more of a complete Taika Waititi, all over the place. But again,
Mm-hmm.
I still feel like Love and Thunder isn't nearly as bad as everybody says it is.
No, I
Um,
like that one. I know I'm in the
yeah,
minority, but I like
yeah,
that one.
same.
Yeah.
But but I think that keeping that tonal consistency through it all is a good idea because you see it in other cinematic universes where when you don't have that tonal consistency, you don't have somebody who can steer the ship like Feige does, that you everything just goes out of whack and
Right.
nothing makes sense. And as much as as much as people complain about it, I think that it's good. But again, I go back to the what I've said before on multiple of these episodes. Watch what you want to watch out of these. Don't watch
Hmm.
every single one of them. You don't have to.
No,
So
they
just
give
watch what
you
you want to watch.
enough to know what's
Yeah.
going on. I mean, even
Yeah,
in
exactly.
this, it's like they give you a little primer again on what these stones are and what's it's like, okay,
Yeah.
well, we
Yeah.
know, but there are people there who haven't. There is a hilarious YouTube video of people taking someone to see Endgame who hadn't seen a single
Yeah.
MCU movie and they could still follow it and they still
Yeah.
cried. So it's like, they're doing
Yeah.
their job. You don't have to slavishly watch everything. You
I
can
think
just take
I
what you want from it.
yeah. And I think the problem is that when you have watched them all, you feel like you have to keep watching them all, and you don't have that distance to come out of it. And I've had people who I've talked to since uh they came like after Endgame, they kind of fell off because
Hmm.
some of the stuff didn't appeal to them, and then they maybe watched one thing and then they were like, you know what, you were right, it wasn't bad, I understood enough. I
Hmm.
was like, that's good confirmation, and I was happy to hear that because I'm too close to it. I really am.
Right.
I love the comic books. I love the movies. This is everything I've always wanted.
Hmm.
Hit or miss. There's definitely been some misses for me. But that's like it is with the comic books as well. I don't
Sure.
read every single comic book. And it's been years since I've read some of them. And so, but overall, getting back to the whole point of this was
Hmm.
that I love what the Russo brothers are doing because that's what you said in the beginning was the
Yes.
scenes.
They've
So
done a real, yeah, the
yeah,
changes in vibe are handled so well.
yeah,
Um,
and the meshing between the groups too. You're
yes.
getting Tony and Peter and Strange all together with
Hmm.
the Guardians of the Galaxy, and you're just like, that works so well
It does.
because they were able to. The writing was on point and the direction was on point enough that you had these different groups that could work together in a way that shouldn't work but does, and
Yes.
that's what good writing and good direction is. So
Hmm. And they did set up like the little subsets of characters in different
yeah,
places are set up really well. Like
yeah,
the people who are in Wakanda all work well together. The people who are
yeah,
in space, that all works well together. So it was definitely you can see the care that it was constructed with for sure. Ugh,
definitely.
I have in here. I know Thanos is the biggest bad ever, but Ebony Maw is such a dick. God, every time he opened his mouth, we're sitting here at the beginning, the very beginning of the movie. Everybody's lying on the floor dead, and this guy cannot stop running his mouth. Shut up.
Yeah, yeah.
Shut up.
He's the most pretentious guy ever. Like I
Oh,
would like if like I don't understand how Thanos even puts up with him. Like just like,
no.
dude, like shut up. Like why is this guy talking for you? Like
You're so lucky to die. Oh my God.
yeah.
Guy, shut up. Every time.
I'm not
That's
not gonna
toward
lie,
the
I was
end of
very
my.
happy to see him die.
Oh,
So
and I was waiting for him to come back because, that's just the way it always is. But he doesn't,
right.
thank goodness. Like, spoiler, that guy, he's floating in space, probably still talking in his head. Shut up. Good Lord. Okay. So, where you want to go now? Because the next thing I have is Wanda and Vision. And then you know who's
Well,
coming after that. The superior version of Captain America.
so I do want to talk briefly about the Black Order themselves. Because Ebony Maw, and then you've got Corvus Glaive, you've got oh what's
The
they're
Midnight
all
Lady.
like
Yeah.
yeah, they're all Midnight Proxima, yeah.
Yes.
Or Proxima Midnight. There we go.
Proxima
Thank you.
Midnight. Yeah, and they all talk too
And
much.
then Cole Obsidian.
Yeah.
And
They
so
all took
yeah,
villain
they all talk.
monologuing 101. Shut up.
Well, they're all just so bland.
Yeah.
Um, like Ma is at least somewhat interesting, but at the same, but because he's such a pretentious asshole,
Yes.
that like that's what makes him somewhat interesting. And then especially because he's going up against Tony and Strange.
Yes.
So
Earth is closed today.
yeah. So it's like the most pretentious alien in the universe going against two of the most egotistical guys on the planet. So it was
A
like,
lot of
dude,
personality
you
going
were,
on.
yeah, like you had no chance, man. So these two like to run their mouths more than you do. So be
Yeah.
quiet. Um, and I say that with all the love in the world for both of those characters because I do. I
Yeah.
love both of those characters in the MCU. So,
Hmm. I'd
but
rather hear
yeah,
them than that guy. So yeah.
yeah, right. But yeah, no, that was my main thing was to say it was just that they are so bland and uninteresting as a group.
Hmm.
That it's just like I'm glad when each one of them gets wiped off the board.
Yes.
So yeah, spoiler alert. Everything's a spoiler alert on this show.
Everything.
If you're
And this one,
listening to
well,
this, it's a huge spoiler alert. Um, but yeah, it's just yeah, I think they're really there just to be his henchmen and to get wiped off the board.
yes.
And that's just it.
Yeah. That's
Um,
all.
yeah. But yeah, let's get into Wanda and Vision. The most annoying couple ever. That have
Oh,
no. Only
okay.
because they set up this whole like romantic aspect of them that we barely even got a hint of. The last time we saw them was in Age of Ultron.
Yes.
And so there was the kind of inklings of a relationship there. And then by this point, of course, it's a few years later, and the
Hmm.
relationship would have progressed. But because we didn't see any of that, there's a huge disconnect for me. And I I'm sure it's not the same for most other people, but for me, it was just like I don't it doesn't gel for me. It
Hmm.
doesn't. They're not. It's not a convincing relationship at that point. Um, but I understand that in the comic books that's how it was, so I'm good with it.
Right.
Um, but even though it's just like we didn't get to see the progression, and I
Hmm.
feel like having that romantic aspect. I'm sorry, but the romantic tension between Bruce and Natasha was more palpable than what was between Wanda and Vision.
Aw. I don't know if I agree with that.
To
I
me,
love
to me,
to
but
you, yeah. I love WandaVision. All I was thinking while I was watching this was, thank goodness I had WandaVision after this, so that I could spend more time with them. I
yeah.
really
Well,
loved that. Yeah.
that show gives you much more time with them and
Hmm.
gives you some like some emotional time with them, and that I like because of that, even though
Right.
that's a downer too.
It
But
is, but it's so good.
everything about Wanda's a downer. So
Yeah.
but
100%. Poor
but yeah, so
Wanda.
give me more of your thoughts about it.
Oh, well, I I know, well, when I'm watching this movie, I know it's coming. I'm getting all excited. And then you throw that spear, and who catches it? The superior version of Captain America. It's Bearded Cap. He's here. He is
Yeah.
here. Oh God. When the three of them come in and just absolutely kick the crap out of them, it is fantastic.
Well, and
I
it's so funny
love
too
that
because
scene.
you've got Captain America. Yes, he is more than average human.
Yes.
Um, but he's still human. Um,
Hmm.
he's not on a superhuman level compared to most people, even compared to uh the Black Order. And then you've got Natasha who's not superpowered, and you got the
Nope.
Falcon who's not superpowered. So you've got these three human people who are just like kicking the crap out of them because
Hmm.
they have the superior skill.
Yes,
And so that just goes to show that it just doesn't matter. Now, of course, they had Wanda's help,
they
through some
did.
of that, but
Yes.
um, and you don't want to piss off Wanda,
No.
as we find out later. um, so, but it's yeah, but it's a great scene. Like that
Mm,
intro to Cap is just like it's so good.
yes.
Just that it's so pitch perfect to everything. And no, it's great. The whole like he's got his kind of he's got his outfit from the Winter Soldier,
Yep.
but it's like tore
It's
the
all beat
stars
up.
tore off. It's all black and
Mm-hmm.
everything, and it's reminiscent of the time that he was where he didn't have the shield. He'd in the 80s, and this goes into Falcon and Winter Soldier territory here. In the 80s, there was a comic in the Captain America comic books. He was told he had to come under the control of the US government, and
Mm-hmm.
he refused. So he gave up his costume and the shield. And another person, John Walker, became
Mm-hmm.
Captain America for a time. And you find out more about that in the Falcon and Winter Soldier. But during that time, he donned a costume that was reminiscent of his normal costume, but it was black with red and white stripes,
Mm-hmm.
and had a black star on it. And so he became just known as the Captain at that time.
Got it.
And so this outfit that he's wearing, of course, is just the outfit that he wore in Winter Soldier, but it's reminiscent because it's kind of got the black star on it and everything, and
Mm-hmm.
it's darker and dirtier and everything.
Yep.
So it's was there no washing machines around, dude?
No.
During this
Well,
2 years you've been.
you get the feeling they're on the run. They,
Yeah, yeah. No, I
yeah,
know.
I know. They can't watch their stuff. No, they all
Yeah.
look all beat up. I mean, they
But
are
Natasha has time to
absolute.
color her hair. Okay, come
That
on.
is true. She has a different hair color in every movie. She always looks amazing.
Always a different haircut. Yep.
Different haircut, different hair color. Yeah, no, she looks amazing. They all look so good. And you can
Yeah.
tell that, like, that is another thing where it's not verbal storytelling, but in that scene, you can see how well they have been operating as a trio for all this
Right.
time. And the shorthand between them, the looks between them, where they know what each other's thinking, like, that's
Right.
really effective in the storytelling because
Yeah.
the three of them have just been out there, like, kicking ass and
Yeah.
taking care of people and trying to do it in a way that they're not going to get caught, and that's just really, I want that movie.
Right.
It's too
No,
late
that's
now,
like
but
I would
yeah,
love. No, 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 no. They can go back and make a movie that's set somewhere in between there. They
that'd be
already did a
great.
Natasha story after Civil War, so they can come
That is
to
true. I
a
want I want Team
Cap
Cap on the
Black Widow.
run.
Yeah, right.
Watch the hell out of that.
That'd be a great movie.
Yeah, I
I
want
would
that
love
movie.
that.
Let's go.
Right. Come on,
Come
Chris
on.
Evans, come back, come
Listen to it.
back.
I know. Oh God, please. Yeah, this is, and I love him in this movie because he is so over it. He's over everything.
Oh yeah,
The scene where he's like, well, I said it last night. He's not
yeah,
asking permission. He's done. No
yeah,
more. None of this. Enough. I
yeah.
love it. I wrote down, he's at peak badass.
Yeah, no, he's just done with everything. He's done with the government. Like, just like they need to stop Thanos and everything else, and they're not going to like sit on the sidelines and just wait for the government to decide what to do.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to do what they need to do, and that's peak Captain America. That's peak Avengers right there. So
Yes,
yeah,
absolutely.
they will just do what they need to do, and to hell with anybody else,
Ugh,
good or bad. So,
I
but
know. I love him. And
yeah,
then we get that flashback with Gamora, with little baby
yeah,
Gamora, which is Ariana Greenblatt, who's killing it lately.
yeah.
So
She is, man.
she's
She's like
killing it.
she was in the Barbie movie
Uh
recently.
huh.
She was in
She's
Ahsoka as young
baby
Ahsoka.
Ahsoka. Yep. She's
Yeah.
all over the
So
place.
she's
And
all
she
over
was
like,
so good in this too. I
oh
mean,
yeah,
yeah, she would have been much younger. She's like a
much
great
younger.
actress. You can see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, and I love that she's choosing like, either her or her parents or whoever's choosing stuff for her. And
Her
hopefully
agent.
she's, yeah, well, but I mean, hopefully she's getting choices in this when people are
Hmm.
coming to her and going, hey, do you want to be young Ahsoka? And yeah.
Yeah.
Um, and I love that she's playing in these spaces with Star Wars and Marvel and Barbie and stuff like that, and she's getting just to kind of do stuff that's interesting. She's obviously a good actress, and so
Hmm.
and she proves it just in this one of her first roles as young Gamora. She's just it's a very small role, but
Hmm.
it's we get a little bit more of her at the end, but
Oh,
yeah.
yes.
So
Delivered so well.
yeah, no, she's so good as young Gamora, and it was nice to see, uh, you know, a young, because here's the thing, a lot of kids suck at acting.
Hmm.
um they're just, as a
I
theater
do.
director who directs kids,
Yeah.
um that it's not that they lack the passion, they haven't gained the talent yet. And
Hmm.
so it's great when you can get a kid who is so good out of the gate like that.
Yes.
And it's rare. um and so it's nice to see when you get somebody of that level so early on.
Right.
So
It is. It's rare.
but
And
yeah.
then that's why I mean, I know sometimes people say, like, why is it always the same kids? I'm like, because they're the ones who can do it.
'Cause they're the ones who are good. Yeah.
They're the ones
you
who
know
can do it. Like, you
yeah.
have those runs where, the kid part is the same person for like,
Yeah.
3 or 4 years. And it's because, the agents have
Yeah.
okay, let's get one of these three kids that we know can do it. That's the way it works.
Yeah, you got, your Chloe Grace Moretz or your Dakota
Mm-hmm.
Fanning or, Haley Joel Osment. They it's
Yep.
just like, I'm talking like late 90s, early 2000s kids. But they, I mean, they're all adults now.
They're adults now. Yeah.
But and they're all still working, which is great. Like
Mm-hmm.
thankfully, like some of this industry, like some of these kids haven't been eaten up by the industry. I know a lot
Right.
of them do. But some of these kids manage to get through it and survive and go on to, fairly good adult careers as well. So
Yeah.
um but yeah, but those kids, that's what's nice when you can see them, and like you said, you see them pop up in like every single thing that has a kid role, they keep popping up. And
Yep.
so it's like, yeah, because they're good,
Because they're
that's the,
good.
everybody wants them, they're in demand.
Mm-hmm.
You're getting that now with like McKenna Grace and
That's who I was thinking of. I'm
yeah.
sitting here like,
um
who was the girl? Chris Evans again, because she was in Gifted, and now she's starting to get older,
was she?
but she was in
Yeah,
Ghostbusters. Yeah.
she was in Ghostbusters
Yep.
Afterlife.
So she'll be in that
Yeah.
again. But yeah,
Yeah.
she was younger Carol in Captain
Yeah.
Marvel.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
had, yeah. So you have
Yeah.
like a run where you see the same kid, and it's, for a couple of reasons. It's because they're good, they're
Yeah.
talented, they
Yeah.
have a natural talent, and probably it's because they're easy to work with and directable.
Yeah.
Sometimes kids are not directable at all, and you don't have time for that on a big movie set. So that's why
No.
you wind up
Well,
seeing the
and you
same
only
kid.
have so much time with these kids too. So you
Yes,
have to
because of
be able to
the
get,
laws. Yeah.
yeah, you have to be able to get what you can get out of them, especially if you got a kid-centric movie.
Hmm.
Um, and then something like this where at least, it was just like a small part. So she was probably literally like a day.
Yeah,
So
she was in and out in like 2 or 3 days.
yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Right. So, but it's nice when you can get somebody like this, an Ariana Greenblatt. I'm so glad that she's getting more roles and that she's continuing to go up. Like this is the year for her. Barbie
Oh,
and Ahsoka,
Barbie
like
and
huge,
Ahsoka. Yep.
huge, and like I've not heard a single bad thing about her performance in either one of them, and
Nope.
I've watched both of them and enjoyed both. So I think she's excellent. So
Yeah, doing good. It was fun to see that
yeah,
since she's been in the conversation, and I was like, oh, here she is.
yeah, yeah.
That was great. All
But
right.
yeah, what do you got next for me?
What do I get next? Okay, here we go.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, now we head into
I'm gonna
Wakanda.
let you guide us today.
Ooh. So now we head into Wakanda, which
Yes.
it's so hard for me to watch that scene because I've seen the outtakes so many times when T'Challa's talking to Bucky and the goats wouldn't shut up in the background. Have you ever seen those
Oh, I
outtakes?
haven't seen that. I'll have to watch. Yeah.
There's find it on YouTube. They were trying to get those lines. That scene is so short. There was so much more dialogue in
Yeah.
it because the goats would not stop. And there's outtakes just of all of them crying, laughing because the goats are screaming in the background. It's
Yeah.
just go find it. It's so funny. So I can't help but giggle at that. But like how this my Bucky again. We have to talk about Bucky because they they open up that case with the arm in it, and he's just like, all right,
Yeah.
where's the
Yeah.
fight? T'Challa's like, it's on its way. Put this arm on. We got to go. Like, you had a couple of, months of goat farming. Now it's time to go. We got to go fight.
Yeah.
And, he gets over it. He's cool later, but that everything is
Yeah.
on his face in that moment. Just
Oh yeah.
great.
Yeah.
Here we
He's
go
like,
again.
yeah.
And
It's like I
T'Challa, the
thought I
White
left
Wolf
that.
has Yeah, the white wolf has
Yeah.
rested long enough. It's like, what? Has he? I don't know, dude. He's been out here for a while.
Well, the last time we saw him was Civil War. So,
Yeah.
and so, obviously, he's had some time, and it's implied that, he's, because it's not really said, and I'm maybe that's in the dialogue that's been cut and everything, but there's
Mm-hmm.
you get the sense that by living this more peaceful life for him, he's been able to get away, and he's been
Mm-hmm.
able to reconcile um some of his old life,
Yep.
and kind of get to a point where he can accept, this battle that's coming.
Yep.
As much as he's weary about it, because I'm sure, like, dude doesn't
Yeah.
want to have to fight if he doesn't have to.
No.
But he resigns himself that, at least with this, like, obviously T'Challa wouldn't ask him if it weren't important. So,
Yeah.
and
I'm sure
especially
he
important
knows
enough
that.
to give him an arm.
Yep.
So, but yeah, it's a great scene. I Every time I see Chadwick Boseman on screen now, it just breaks my heart.
Oh, I
Just
know.
knowing that his entire run in the MCU, he was sick with cancer the
He was
entire
sick.
time. And that he still went through it like he did.
Yeah.
Just because he wanted to be that character so bad that
He's
he was willing
amazing.
to continue to go through it. And yeah, it just breaks my heart every time because
Yeah.
he's so
It's
good
hard
in
to
the role.
watch
He was
him.
so perfect. Yeah.
Yeah.
And but you never see it once. Like,
Nope.
no, like nobody suspect, not even the people making the movie suspected. And
No.
so it's crazy.
Yeah.
But no,
It's oh,
yeah,
it's
but
heartbreaking. It really is seeing him now. But yeah, there was
yeah,
I can't even think of anybody else who could have
no,
that
no.
he
And I'm
was.
glad they didn't continue. I'm glad that with the MCU, they were just like, well, we just got to move on. Well,
Mm-hmm.
somebody else
Yep.
can be Black Panther now, but not be T'Challa. So
No. Like because you can't. It would have hurt too many people.
yeah,
There's
exactly.
way too much emotion wrapped up in that. It would have been in really poor taste. And
Oh yeah,
I don't think that this franchise has ever really done anything that's in poor taste, really. I think they try.
they
They
do.
do
Yeah,
try.
I think if they do anything in poor taste, it's unintentional.
Hmm.
Um, or something that they can't get around. Like, I think, like, the only thing that I can consider right now is
I know
the
what you're gonna
Jonathan
say.
Majors mess
Yep.
right now.
And it is a
And
mess.
Loki, just like, we're recording this the day after
Day
Loki
after
season 2
Loki.
premiered.
Hmm.
And so, it's just one of those things where you have to kind of separate. They had already filmed all that, and to scrap it all would have,
Yeah.
like, been so much more money and everything. That I understand why they didn't, and hopefully they'll figure out a way around it in the future.
Yeah.
um
I have hope that
um
they're going to figure it out.
yeah,
I
I
don't
do
think
too.
that yeah, I don't think that they're going to leave it and not be able to fix it. I don't,
Right.
but
Yeah, I'm hoping maybe over the course of Loki they kind of transition it to something else. But we'll see.
we
um
will.
yeah,
Just starting that journey.
yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's but yeah, no, every bit with Wakanda is great.
Mhm.
When Cap's crew gets there,
Yes.
and the bit
With Starbucks.
with no, not even that, but the
Not
bit
even
with
that.
Bruce, the Bruce bit where he's like, "Do we bow?" And Rhodey's
Oh,
like,
yes.
Yeah, he's a
Yeah, he's a
king."
king. Yeah.
And then he goes to bow, and T'Challa's like, "No, we don't do that there. Do that here." And Rhodey just like laughs, and it's such a great. It's like, it's perfect. Like, encapsulates perfectly what the Avengers are.
Mhm.
They're a bunch of friends who, and not always like the best of friends, but they know that they can, goof with each other enough um, that they're comrades. They're basically comrades in this super intense, high stress situation, and you
Mhm.
have to have those moments of levity to um decompress,
Yeah.
because otherwise you'd go insane. So
Absolutely. And they know, like, yeah, they give each other a hard time. They give Bruce a real hard time in this movie,
yeah.
but it's
Well,
you know that it's all in good fun and that they all
right.
genuinely care about each other and that it
Yeah.
they're such a good team. Everybody has a part to play and they all play it and it's just, that's why we love them. Because we
Yeah.
can see that.
And I think it's important to mention the whole situation with Bruce in this movie too. He starts off
Mm-hmm.
as the Hulk, and once he lands on Earth, he transforms back into Bruce and can't get back into Hulk mode.
No,
Um,
Hulk doesn't want to
like
come.
the Hulk personality is refusing to come out because he's scared of Thanos.
Mm-hmm.
He got his ass kicked by Thanos, and so he's refusing to come out and potentially be hurt by him again, which
Yeah.
is it's a little bit not in keeping. And again, this different universe. So
Mm-hmm.
Hulk is Hulk, and Hulk the aspect the main thing of what the Hulk is the madder he gets, the stronger he gets.
Mm-hmm.
And so the Hulk is nigh unstoppable
Right.
in any situation. So yes, getting his ass handed to him by Thanos is gonna, you know, put you down a little bit. So
But it
what's
should,
a
in theory, make him stronger
right,
because
you know,
he's
because it would piss him
angry.
off. Yeah.
So that doesn't always, yeah, that's a
So
little,
there is a little disconnect there from me as a fan,
yeah,
but also like I get that they're having more fun and they're just trying to give a different situation because yes, the Hulk would be pretty unstoppable and it would be they don't want somebody so super powered, so super strong that that they couldn't tell a good story around it.
yes.
And I think
Well,
that's ultimately where they come down on it is like the more interesting story is to have Bruce not be able to access Hulk.
well, it's
And
interesting, and they had to set up a situation where where Thanos was going to win. Like, no
yeah,
matter what, and no matter what happens over the course of this, the 2.5 hours that this movie is taking us on, Thanos is going to win at the end.
right,
And if the Hulk
exactly,
was there and super powered and really angry, then that throws a wrench in it. So that is, I
right.
think, part of it. I know someone who calls it the plot force. The plot force said that Hulk had to stay inside Bruce and scream no every time everybody
Right.
wanted him to come out, and that's what the plot needed. So
Right.
this is
Exactly.
where we are for this movie. And this movie doesn't do it that much, but I think that's definitely an example
Right.
of the plot force.
Yeah. But there's also like, but it's also like we find out that it's also part of Bruce's journey
Mm,
to getting to where we get to him in Endgame.
yeah.
And and I'll get into that in Endgame.
Mm-hmm.
But
It's
at
another
least it's a
another
nice
episode.
stepping stone. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's a nice stepping stone. And I'm doing that with our friend Hugh, so that'll be
Yay,
fun.
Hugh!
Yeah. So yeah, so it's going to be a fun it's a fun plot device that they use in here. We get him in the Hulkbuster Iron Man suit, which is great.
Yes.
So it's he gets to still be kind of super strong but with some of Tony's gadgets. And
Mm-hmm.
so it's definitely a fun aspect of a fun detour for Bruce
Yeah.
in that way. So but yeah, and this is the thing though. They managed to juggle so many storylines, so many
Yep.
character arcs, and everything else within this 2.5 hours. They
Yeah.
managed to basically advance everybody's plot through all of this. Um, I gotta rewind and get back to
Yeah.
one of the major plot points of this whole movie is Thor's journey.
Yes.
Because Thor, like we said, Thor in the beginning, we don't know what happens to him, but he ends up getting picked up by the Guardians, and you talked about that, the
Mm-hmm.
whole Star Lord Thor thing
Yes.
happens, and that's just whatever. But
We just need that so we can get him with Rocket and
get him with
Groot.
Rocket and Groot, yeah,
Yes.
and go get his new hammer. But it's just like everybody that Thor has cared about is dead now.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody, his mom, his dad, his brother, they're all gone, and so are
Heimdall.
many of his people. Yeah, Heimdall, his
Mm-hmm.
friend. So all of these people are now dead. His whole, he and at this point he doesn't really know if the people who got away have gotten away.
Right.
And so he is just devastated. And he is just completely out for vengeance on Thanos at this point. He needs to get a hammer. He needs to do this because otherwise, like, what meaning does his life have?
Mm-hmm.
And you get this through this, like, and at the end, like he has the chance,
Mm,
and I know you made the note too. Like
mm-hmm.
he should have, like Thanos even says that he should have
Oh,
gone for the head. Like he should have killed him. He should have, but Thor will be Thor, and
mm-hmm.
Thor will make that mistake of stabbing him in the chest instead, so that he can try to make some kind of point. Like I told you I'd get you again,
Yeah.
rather than just taking him out like he should
Mm-hmm.
have, or cutting off his hand, even like
Yeah.
that. Like that should have
Oh,
been the
yeah.
thing. Like just cut off the arm,
Just
then he
cut off
can't
his
stab it.
arm.
Yeah. And
Oh,
so, and I know
yep.
that we have to get to that point. We have to have the snap. But
Yeah.
it's and this is where we get in the next movie. Thor is just devastated. Just
Mm-hmm.
Thor cannot reconcile that mistake. And because in the moment of in the moment of possible victory, he failed.
Yeah.
And he continued to fail. Like that's what happened. Like throughout this whole thing, yes, he gets his hammer, and he helps save the day in part, but at the end of it, he was the person who failed in the moment of the best chance they had.
Yeah.
And that's like I said, this movie is a fucking bummer.
It
Um,
really is.
not
It's
even
so
accounting all the
sad.
snap stuff, but just like everything is it's just so devastating.
Yeah.
Um,
There's a
before
thousand
that,
moments. Yes. When
yeah,
and like there's two couples that need to reckon with killing their significant other to
yeah,
try to stop this thing from happening. And even then, it still happens. Like everything conspires to this one thing happening and everyone gets tortured along the way. Absolutely tortured.
yeah. It's just devastating. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, I just and you made an apt comparison about Empire and Jedi, and how this is the MCU's Empire for sure. They're
Yes.
they're down at their worst moment ever. They lose everything.
They lose
Um,
huge. Yeah.
yeah, I mean the Guardians of the Galaxy is nearly decimated. The only two members that are left are Rocket and Nebula.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and we're jumping ahead, but
Yeah.
it's just but it's just like, oh my god. All right, so let's jump back. What else you got?
Yeah. I had in here that so I know this was peak badass Steve, but this is also peak adorable Peter Parker. He's so cute in this movie. Every one of his scenes are so sweet. And then there's that part where they're trying, Tony's mad that he stows away into space with them,
Yeah,
but then he says he can't be a friendly neighborhood Spider-Man if there's no neighborhood.
yeah.
He's so cute. He's adorable.
And
Peter's adorable in this.
no, and this is peak Spider-Man too. Like this is
Oh,
for me, like this is why I will continue to scream that Tom Holland is the best Spider-Man. He's the best Peter Parker. He's the best
yep.
Spider-Man. He just encapsulates everything that is the character in
Mm-hmm.
such a way that nobody else has been able to do before. Um, and
Andrew Garfield's still my favorite Spider-Man, but I think that Tom Holland is the best at it.
yeah,
But I
yeah.
just really like Andrew Garfield, so
No, and then like, and the people can have their favorites and everything like that. Up
yeah.
until up until Todd and Tom Holland came around, Andrew Garfield was the better Spider-Man for me as well too.
Hmm.
So, but
I think he's
and
just
I
a
go more.
perfect Peter Parker. He's
Yeah,
so and I mean, unfortunately, I'll never see him as like older than 16. So this poor guy's like in his 30s by now, I think, and I'm like, oh, you're such a little kid. This poor
yeah.
guy. But
Well, I mean, unfortunately and fortunately, he looks young enough that
yes,
he'll be able to play it for a while if he does continue to play the character. If he comes back, fingers crossed, because I'd like to see him.
I would like
At
to see
least
the
at
next
least
movie.
one
Yeah.
more of him being the actual New York based Spider-Man
Yeah.
jumping around. Yeah,
Yeah, that's a whole other podcast, but
yeah,
where
exactly.
where his story is right now. I need
Yeah,
that movie. You can't do that to me.
exactly.
You got to make it. The the next thing I had was that scene with Gamora and Nebula where Nebula is all torn apart by
Oh
Thanos and
man.
they're trying that moment of we have spent two movies with these women reconciling their relationship.
Yeah.
like understanding their feelings for each other and their love for each other as sisters, and how he absolutely, that scene is brutal.
Oh
It's
yeah.
awful how he plays them like that, how he's torturing Nebula because he knows it's torturing Gamora, and how
Yep.
terrible that is. That scene is horrifying.
Yeah.
Ugh, they're both,
No,
those
it's
women, they're such good actresses too. Both of
oh
them are
yeah.
so good in this movie.
Yeah.
They're good all the time. Nebula is my number five top MCU character. I love
Oh wow.
Nebula. Her
Yeah.
character arc has been so amazing this through this whole thing, and she's just incredible. And
No, and I talk about it. I talk about it in my Guardians of the Galaxy episode that she should have been the main villain in like Ronan shouldn't have been the villain. If she had been the villain, just doing whatever Thanos wanted, I think it would have been a much more interesting
yep,
arc.
I agree with that.
And we could have still landed in the same place with her rather
Hmm.
than having the whole Ronan thing. But but I just think like for me, Ronan was just kind of a bland villain. I love the actor
It
who
was a
plays him.
waste of Lee Pace. Lee
Yeah,
Pace would have,
very
yeah,
much. Yeah,
a waste of his abilities. He's
yeah,
wonderful, and they
yeah,
definitely didn't give him enough to do, and they didn't do
yeah.
enough with that character.
Like, did they
Yeah.
not see him in oh my god, Pushing Daisies? Like,
Yeah,
come
or
on, people,
Halt
come
and
on.
Catch Fire, if you haven't
Yeah,
watched
I
that.
didn't see that one yet, but yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's well worth a
Pushing
watch. Yeah,
Daisies
Lee
for me is
Pace.
always the like the peak Lee pace. So
Yes. He's wonderful. So, yeah,
yeah,
that was a misstep. And you could have kept him around too. He could have been someone who came back.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's always disappointing. It always just drives me nuts when they kill villains. It's like these people can come back. Come on, just
Hmm.
incarcerate them. Just like put them in a jail cell somewhere and then bring them back later.
We
So
randomly get Red Skull here, so
yeah, yeah.
so
It's
random.
speaking of, yeah. It and it's the guy who's playing in this time because it's not
It's
Hugo
not
Weaving.
Hugo Weaving, yeah.
It's Ross Marquand.
Hmm.
He's playing him, and most people may know him better from The Walking Dead. And I can't remember the character he played, um, but he does a really good job at basically playing him the same way Hugo Weaving did.
Hmm.
I didn't know until afterward that it wasn't Hugo Weaving. I thought it was him the whole time.
Yeah.
So I was like, "Ooh, they got back Hugo Weaving." No, so and I just like I feel like it's such a weird like thing. It's a waste of the Red Skull. Um, to have him as this guardian of the Soul Stone.
It
Um,
didn't make any sense. I mean,
yeah,
I don't know if there is a reason. I mean, he doesn't do that in the comics, right?
no,
Okay,
no.
so was it just, and the thing is that if you had Hugo Weaving and you wanted Hugo Weaving to come be a part of this party, then I get it. But you had to find somebody else to pretend to be Hugo Weaving because you really needed the Red Skull for
I just think it was a weird
Vormir.
thing
It
to
just
bring him.
seems weird.
Yeah. Yeah. It was a weird thing, especially because of the implications at the end of Endgame, which I'm
Hmm.
not going to get into now. But the implications that go into that is makes things a little weird um, for a character there. Um,
No,
so, so, so it's just odd. It was a very odd choice. I think it was just the because it was the same writers from because it's literally the writers of all the Captain America movies.
right.
And so they'd had the character and they were like, well, you know what? He vanished at the end of Captain America, the first Avenger. Maybe this is where he went to after all.
This is like
Um,
his punishment
yeah, his punishment is to, you know,
to tell
stand here
people that
and
stand here and
he
tell everybody who their
guard a
parents
stone that
are. Because,
yeah,
like,
guard a stone
okay,
that nobody will yeah, guard a stone that nobody will ever like he'll never be able to possess.
no,
So I get that
okay,
that's kind of a punishment, but it's like okay, but I don't think the stones really have that kind of intent. Like they're
no,
like
like I don't
they
think they planned it, but
yeah. So it's just weird, but yeah, I
it's
agree with
definitely
you. It's a
weird. I just don't know if they did it just for that, like, oh, like that recognition from the audience when his face is
Yeah.
revealed, and you're like, oh, okay, it's this guy again. But
Yeah.
that
I mean,
lasts 10
I was
seconds.
glad to see him back, but it was such a weird thing. I was like, I'd rather just see him back as a Captain America antagonist,
Right.
so
He's just
like
hanging out on this mountain.
the more interesting thing would have been for Alexander Pierce to be revealed to be the Red Skull. Like honestly, like after all that, yeah, like
Ooh.
to just rip off the mask and just be like Red
Ooh.
Skull underneath,
I'm
I would have been like,
here.
yeah.
That would have been
So because
great.
so in the 80s in the Captain America comic book, um the Red Skull had his consciousness transferred into a clone body, but a clone body of Steve Rogers. Yeah.
That's messed up.
So he looked like Steve for like a long time. He had the face and everything. And he wasn't trying to pretend to be Captain America, but he was just kind of hiding from in the shadows. And at that point, he would just wear a Red Skull mask until later on his face got messed up. Like
And and then he had a Red
got
Skull.
yeah. So yeah,
Okay, that's
no,
messed up though.
yeah. But yeah, so wouldn't it have been interesting to have like because Robert Redford kind of looks like a Captain America-esque character, like
Hmm.
in his early days, he could have probably played Captain America
Oh,
very well.
yes,
Um,
absolutely.
so I think that that would have been like an interesting little wrinkle there and would have made the Red Skull character a lot more interesting also, especially and then tie back into the whole Hydra-ness of everything if that had been the reveal rather than just him being some dude. So
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that would have been great.
yeah.
Especially since he did just disappear at the end of the first movie, so it would not have
Yeah.
been difficult for him to have been there the whole time
Yeah. Exactly.
with
Just
Robert Redford's skin over his Red Skull.
right. So he would wear a different mask and use a American accent.
Right?
So anyway,
That
but
works.
yeah,
No, I
so
like
that was
that.
that was always a plot thread that I heard somebody else mention like at some point. I don't think it was ever something they were going to use, but I heard somebody mention that, and I was like, oh, that would have been a much better idea. So
Yes.
as much as I love Winter Soldier, Winter Soldier is like top two for me. So
Yep. No, Winter
um
Soldier is amazing, but that definitely would have
yeah,
made it just a little bit more
even just a
amazing.
bit better, yeah. So
Yes.
um but yeah, it's but yeah, his inclusion in this is just weird. It's bizarre.
It is strange.
Um,
And then we
but
get him later, but yeah.
yeah, yeah, that's gonna be an interesting topic of conversation for
Mm-hmm.
the in game episode.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so anyway, so what else you got for me?
Anywho.
What else you got?
Well, I mean, after that is obviously Gamora's heartbreaking death, which is
Yeah,
terrible because we know, as we've already mentioned, this Gamora's gone, Loki's gone, Vision's gone. Like, this is the
yeah,
last time we see this character, and it's
yeah,
horrifying.
yeah.
But, ooh, then we go back to Wakanda and we get one of the best lines ever. Get this man a shield. That's right. Get this man a shield.
But then
They're
they give him the
coming.
weirdest like little shield things, and I like
Well,
they
it's
they're in
cool
keeping with
though.
Wakandan style,
It's
yeah,
yeah,
and
it's
it's
a
cool.
Wakandan
So
shield.
yeah,
But
so I
yeah,
do like it. I do think it's cool, and it works well with his
with his
outfit that he's
darker
wearing.
costume. Yep.
Yeah, yeah.
Yep. He's
So it
got a
works well. Don't get me wrong, I do
great
like it.
aesthetic in this
Yeah,
movie. He looks
yeah,
great. We get to see fan favorite M'Baku. I love M'Baku.
yes,
He's not in it
yeah,
enough. I need more Winston Duke in this movie, but
yeah.
you know,
Winston
we
Duke is
got
great.
a we got a
I'm
whole
a
lot
big
of
fan of
people
the
we got to
movie
cram.
Us, and he's great in that. So,
Yes.
uh, but
He
yeah,
is
he's
wonderful.
yeah. But we get that scene of them with the battle. This is like the every Avengers movie's got the scene with the hordes, the
Mm-hmm.
horde battles and everything like that. But we get one of the best sequences, and it's not subtle, but it's like it's one of those things that if you're not really paying attention, it's something that you could miss. And that it's that moment where everybody's running towards the hordes, and both Black
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Panther and Captain
And
America are
Cap are
outpacing everybody
miles ahead.
because they're both superhuman. So
Mm-hmm.
or peak human. Um and so yeah, they're just outpacing everybody. The only quibble I have with that though is that Winter Soldier should have been at least maybe just a little bit behind them, but
I
still
agree.
ahead of everybody else because Bucky has had similar procedures. He can go toe to toe with Cap.
He
So,
can. I have
um,
heard that I mean, I don't know if this is just like, Tumblr shenanigans or if this is true, but I had heard that his serum is not as strong as what Steve got,
well, yeah, yeah,
but still it does. I mean, I know they wanted like that cool shot of
yeah,
Steve and T'Challa
yeah,
running, so
yeah,
I get it. And believe me, I
yeah,
am a Bucky girl, so but it
yeah,
would make the logic states
yeah.
that he should have been close to where they were, not where
Yeah,
everybody
even
else
if
was.
just a little bit behind for sure,
Mm-hmm.
but but somewhere in the middle between you know
Mm-hmm.
Cap and Black Panther and the rest of the group
Yep.
would have been a nice little touch. But I do like that they even added that bit that they show Cap and Black Panther just like outpacing everybody and just getting to the hordes faster and
Yes.
just start taking them out. So
Mm.
yeah, it's a great sequence. Um, you know, I'm neither here nor there for big group battle things. Like they're messy, more than anything, and
Mm-hmm.
they're chaotic. They I like when they get into the little moments where Natasha and Okoye and Wanda all take out
Yep.
Proxima Midnight. It's a great sequence. Um, you know, and I'm all here for the that's and I'm gonna say right here, that's the better version of the whole woman power thing than the one that we get in Endgame. Because the
I
Endgame
have
one is all about
oh
posing.
I
So
have written down She's Not Alone is superior in every way. It is done so much better.
no, yeah,
I
so much
remember
better.
being annoyed in Endgame. Like, what is this?
I mean, it's a great shot, don't get me wrong, but it's
Oh,
just a shot. It's not
it's
meant for
one
anything else
shot.
other than just posing.
Yeah,
It's like,
it's just look
yes,
at all the
great.
women we have. Like, okay, cool, but
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
and then what bothers me that because I just watched it again last night because I have to Return of the Jedi this thing, but
Yeah.
what annoys me even more is Wasp is supposed to be helping to like fix the van and she just magically pops up in there. I'm like, what did your
Right.
beeper go off? It's like,
Yeah.
hey, bestie, the
Wait, we got a
girls are
pose
getting
moment.
together. We
Yeah.
need to, it's like, come on, what is
We got the
this?
photo op moment. Everybody's got to show up.
It's like
Yeah.
she's got help. I'm like, bitch, she doesn't need help. She just took down a whole ship by herself. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
come
Yeah.
on.
If anybody needs help,
So,
it's Captain
sorry,
Marvel coming
Hugh,
in
we're
to save
yelling
you
about
guys.
Endgame on
Yeah.
the wrong
Yeah.
episode.
Yeah. It was relevant.
It was relevant because this scene does it much better.
This scene does it much better.
Much,
And,
much
and here's the
better.
thing, like I get it, that felt more like a studio, like a Kevin Feige thing. Let's get them all together in
Like,
a
get
in
the
a group
girls
shot real quick.
together.
Yeah, do a group shot one.
No,
And
I
it's
can.
fine. Don't get me wrong. It's fine. I like it in game. It's great. I love seeing all the characters together like that.
Mhm.
It's great, but it's not as meaningful as it is in the
in in
Infinity War.
this one.
So
And
yeah,
like, I'm gonna Star Wars this up again for a second, really quickly, but you have that egregious example of it in Endgame, which is just ugh, gross. And then you have the season 2 finale of Mandalorian, where you barely realize that it's all women. And they don't like
yeah,
take a second to be like, hey, look, we're all women. We have our weapons.
yeah.
No, they are doing their job. They're doing what they're
Right.
supposed to do, which is
Yeah,
what is happening in this movie when they help
yeah,
Wanda. That's not what's happening in Endgame.
yeah, yeah,
Endgame is like a runway walk for absolutely no reason. So
yeah,
anyway, good
yeah.
job, Infinity War. You win this round. You get the point.
But yeah, no, it's a great scene. I love it. It works very well. Um, and it's just there's a lot going on. We get Thor comes back. He finally comes back with the hammer and
Mm-hmm.
everything like that. It's the scenes with him and Eitri and all that, they're great. I love Peter Dinklage.
Yes.
But I kind of glossed over that because it wasn't it's important but not important. It's a short scene. Um,
Well,
but
when you cutting back and forth between the battle and that, it's like, oh my god,
yeah,
make the thing, please. Like,
yeah. Just hurry up, get the hammer and get there.
like
Um,
get it moving.
yeah. But it is great because like I said, I love Peter Dinklage. He's so good. So it's great to see him in even a tiny role in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
But it's great. We get Thor's back. He's got his new hammer. he comes back with he has that great moment with Cap where they kind
Yes.
of joke each other about
New
the
haircut. You
beard and
got
the
my
haircut.
beard. Yep.
Yeah.
What's
And I
funnier about it is that Steve is so exhausted. Thor is
oh
just he
yeah.
just got here, so he's all fresh. He's like, oh,
Yeah.
you
Well,
copied
I
my
mean,
beard,
he's
and Steve's like,
fresh-ish. He
yeah,
just had a
okay,
star blasting him in the
yeah,
back, so he's. I'd say Thor deserves a little bit of tiredness
that
too.
is true.
So,
Oh, that is true. Yes,
but
that's that
Thor is a
great line.
god, so
That's what's killing you means when
yeah,
it'll kill you. Yeah, we know, but
yeah, yeah.
that is
Only if I
basically
die.
only if I die.
Killing you
Yep.
means, yeah.
And then it's like, this is my friend Tree. I am Groot. I am Steve
I am Steve
Rogers.
Rogers. Yeah. Yeah, no, it's great. I love that sequence. It's but yeah, you could tell Steve is exhausted. He's like,
Mm-hmm.
he might be superhuman, but he still gets tired, and that's a lot to deal with because
Mm-hmm.
again, hordes of you know mindless troops just
Gross
trying
things.
to, yeah, yeah.
They're always
I'm
like
a
weird weasel animal
yeah.
things.
They look similar to the Chitari,
They
and
do.
I can't remember if they are you know part of that
I
group or
think they would
not, but
are the like giant bug things flying around because that's what I always means Chitari to me. Like even if they're like that's the big thingies, the big giant like earthwormy kind of things that are flying around in the
oh
air.
yeah.
Those
Well, the
things.
Chitauri were the Chitauri were the like the troops and stuff like that, not
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
necessarily the ships, but
I
yeah,
don't think they
but yeah.
have them, but they always like
I don't
they always bring
necessarily
those
think the
guys.
yeah. I don't necessarily think these were Chitari
I don't
in
think
this
they
movie, but they don't
are,
really explain what they were, so
but they
they just
are
reminded me
in
of
the
them.
flashback. They are
Okay.
in Gamora's flashback. You see them flying
Oh
around.
right,
So
yeah.
they
In
use
her,
yeah, so he
yeah.
used the Chitauri on her planet.
Yeah,
So they
yeah,
do,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, no, that is what's interesting too, is that in that flashback, going back to that, you
Hmm.
get what would have happened to Earth if Loki and the Chitauri had been successful, if the
Right.
Avengers hadn't been able to stop them. So it's interesting to see that, although in this instance, again, it's weird that if Earth was so important
Hmm.
and that he would trust it to Loki and the Chitauri rather than
Do it
going there
himself.
himself with the Black Order, which we
Right.
see on Gamora's world. So it's like, well, why didn't you go to Earth? Like, so it's just bizarre. Um,
Because they didn't know what they wanted to do in
well,
Avengers.
yeah, 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 yeah,
They were still figuring it out.
yeah.
But yeah, he should have just gone there.
We're
But
not
yeah.
supposed to realize it.
No, don't look
Now,
behind the curtain.
right. Hey, I love the MCU, but yeah, they had to find their way for sure because they knew they wanted Thanos to eventually be the big bad, but
Hmm.
they had to figure out how to get to him. So,
And to be fair, it's only when we're sitting here talking
oh,
about
in
it like
hindsight,
this.
yeah,
Yeah, exactly. Like
yeah.
otherwise I was, eating it
Oh,
up
I
with a
was,
spoon for 10
yeah.
years. So
Oh, yeah.
like I
Every
wasn't
movie,
sitting there
yeah.
going,
I still
"Hey,
do
this
it.
doesn't make sense."
Yeah,
Yeah.
I still do it even when it doesn't make sense. I'm just like, yeah, I don't care. Just give it to me. Give it to me.
Yeah.
I don't care. I don't get. Give me the Eternals. I don't care. I don't like the Eternals, but I'll take it. You
But I'll
know.
take it.
Yeah.
Just give it.
But I mean, and the movie was fine. I don't hate the Eternals.
Yeah.
Um, it's one of my lessers. But it's but yeah, but this one it's like picking up those little plot threads and stuff like that. I
Hmm.
love how they did that with this and continued on into this one. Um, but yeah, what else you got for me?
I know.
Because I'm meandering.
I'm like, we're actually getting
You
close.
got notes? Yeah,
Um, I do have notes. Uh, I love when Steve comes and is trying to make Vision go away, and then Vision is the one who saves him, and he repeats Steve's
yeah,
line from before about how we don't trade lives.
yeah,
Like, and even though like Thanos would have found him even if he ran, but
yeah,
poor Vision. A moment for
yeah,
Vision. I love
yeah.
him. I felt so bad. I I'm like, as I was writing, I think so much starts happening at the end, and I was just like, banging my fingers on my phone to write these notes down. I just have fuck you in capitals after that line. And I don't know what Thanos did, but I'm sure he did something. Oh, because the next thing I have is we're in the end game now. So this is
Oh
what
yeah.
I know why I typed that. It was because of what Thanos says to Tony after on Titan when Tony does his absolute best to try to
Yeah.
take down Thanos and then he just like sits him down. He's so condescending.
Yeah.
Like it's just to everyone he just wants to sit them down, even like to Wanda when he touches her head at them. It's like, stop, like you're
Yeah.
not everyone's father, you're not the father of the universe, you're just a
Yeah.
big purple asshole, like shut up. He's so condescending. Like I
Yeah.
never want to be that person who's mad at actors for their roles, but I feel like every time I see Josh Brolin I'm just like, because I mean he's great in this, he's a
Yeah.
great villain
Yeah.
because I just want to punch him all the time. But
Right.
he's just the condescension when he sits Tony down, like, oh, I hope they remember you.
Yeah.
Shut up. Oh my God. Ugh. Yeah, he's just.
Yeah.
Oh, so that's what that's all about. I was like, why did I write that? And then, yeah, so then Doctor Strange says we're in the end game now because
Yeah.
he knows what's going to happen. He's not going to tell
Yeah.
anybody. He certainly can't
Yeah.
tell Tony because then it won't happen. Uh,
Right.
Yeah, so now this is when everything just starts rolling to its
Oh, it just yeah.
horrifying conclusion. Like it doesn't
Yeah.
stop. My notes, it's like we're in the end game now, and then my next note is I just feel you, so, which means that this is when Vision asks Wanda to destroy the gem, and then she destroys the gem, and then he shows up and brings time back, which is
Yep.
the oh my God. So it's twice in this movie. It's twice. Peter tries to shoot Gamora, and then he turns it into a bubble gun
Yeah.
and takes Gamora and throws her off a cliff. And then Wanda pulls out the stone, has to, kill her love. And then it's like, oh, okay, well, I know that was hard for you, but now let me just roll back time, rip the
Yeah.
damn thing out of his head. It is so frustrating. It's
Yeah.
so frustrating. Those things they do really well in this movie.
Yeah.
Just
No, and
the,
that they
oh,
make you really hate Thanos. And it's like even if he had a good point, which he doesn't necessarily have a good point. Don't get me wrong. His overall theory is okay-ish. There's better ways to go around it, of
yes.
course. But, murdering half the universe doesn't help.
No.
But it's so that's what they do really good about this is that even if you kind of agree with his point, he's such a raging asshole
Yes.
that, and like you said, he's so condescending to everybody. He just
Oh.
knows his plan is just so good and so perfect and everything like that.
And
That
oh, sweetie, you tried. Like nobody
yeah.
needs that. That's his entire attitude is,
Oh yeah.
"Aw, you're so cute. Thanks
Yeah.
for trying." Like, shut up. Oh my
Yeah, and he
God.
does it constantly too. It's like every time he defeats somebody, oh, well, you tried. Thanks.
Oh, you
Yeah.
tried. A for effort. Like,
Yeah.
come
Here's a
on.
gold star.
Oh, it's just yeah, he is. He is just the biggest bad. Ugh. But
Yeah.
yeah, that's
It's
awful.
yeah,
Mm.
he's a he, but yeah, that scene is just devastating because like yes, you get that heartbreaking moment of
Mm.
her like having to you know break that out of him and then having it rolled back and
Like
then him just pulling it out of him instead.
pulling it
And it's
out of
just
his
like
head.
he's dead either way, so
Like, no wonder
it's
she's so
just
messed up.
yeah.
Like,
Oh yeah.
can anyone, like, I mean, I don't know, my son's always mad at me because I'm always on Wanda's side. And I was like, dude, like, can you blame her? She has been through hell.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
No, it's yeah.
Mm. So we've already
Yeah.
covered Thor. So Thor doesn't go for the head. And even then,
Yeah.
he's got to be like, you should have gone for the head. Oh my God. Should have gone for
Yeah.
the head. Snap. And then we get
Yeah.
Ariana Greenblatt again. What did it cost? Everything.
Yeah.
Yikes.
Yeah.
That's a great scene. That is a really
No,
good
that
scene.
is yeah. Yeah, and it's like because that goes back to, and we didn't talk about it, but that goes back to Thanos having to kill Gamora. He
Hmm.
he doesn't want to.
No.
Um and
He
he
does
doesn't
genuinely
have
love
to.
her.
Yeah, he
That's
does genuinely love her,
he wouldn't have
and
gotten the
that's
stone otherwise.
yeah, and that's a great sequence between them as well too, because she doesn't realize in that moment how much he actually does love her until she sees him, you know, before he murders her and
Hmm.
everything. That it breaks his heart, but he believes so truly in his messed up mission that he's willing to kill her to get there,
Yeah,
and he's willing to sacrifice everything. And so it's just, you know it sucks,
it does.
but then we get the snap,
Then the
and
snap.
then
Ugh.
everybody's like, well, what happened? Nobody knows what happened. Thor was the only one there, and
Hmm.
Thor is just devastated because he he realized, I should have gone for the head. I shouldn't have done what I did, but I did.
Or
And
get
now
cut off his arm.
cut off his arm, cut off his head, cut off other,
Cut
don't
off
just stab him
anything.
in the chest. Um, yeah, it
Mm.
was just every step of the way, every chance they had to stop him, they just failed.
Yep.
Um, and then we get like the worst moments of everybody just dusting.
Yep.
Um,
Bucky
and
first, and then
Bucky first, and then like
T'Challa.
yeah, one of the ones that kills me is Sam, because Sam's
Yes,
laying there, he dusts, and Rhodey's looking for him,
is still
and Rhodey
looking for
doesn't see
him.
him. Yeah,
No,
and
so
nobody knows. Like, I mean,
nobody sees
everybody
him
has to
go.
just assume that he dusted, but
Mm-hmm.
nobody saw him, and
Mm-hmm.
so like that just was like, I was like, oh man, that's bad. Um,
There's lots of
you know,
characters you don't see either. Because I remember when Endgame was coming and we had the
yeah,
posters, those when the day those character posters hit, and everybody had one, and it was either, the ones who were still alive or the ones who were dusted. And we were like, sure, he got dusted. We had no, we don't see it
yeah,
happen, but like there were so
yeah,
many characters that you can't show everyone. There's like 500
right.
people in this movie.
Yeah, exactly. And there were
Yeah.
people who weren't in this movie who we weren't sure about, like,
Mm-hmm.
Hawkeye and um, you know, um Ant-Man and
Yep.
stuff that we don't find out until later.
What happened?
Um,
Yeah.
yeah. And so it's yeah, but I think the worst one for me, the worst one is Peter Parker,
Oh,
Spider-Man. That one, and they let him ad lib that, which is crazy. They didn't script that part
mm.
of it. And you can't tell me that Tom Holland is not an excellent actor
He's an
just from
excellent
that
actor.
scene
Yep.
alone. Everything else aside, he's the best Spider-Man, best Peter Parker ever. And that scene alone just kills me every time.
Mm.
Still watching it every time, because the fear on, like, because he take everybody else kind of
He's
dusts quickly, you know, his takes a bit.
It takes a
And
while because the spider sense tells him something's wrong,
yeah,
but he
yeah,
doesn't, so he started feeling it more than everybody else.
yeah,
When, they
yeah,
started feeling it when they actually started dissolving. He knew it was
yeah,
coming.
yeah,
So, and you can see it all over his face. You
yeah,
can see it all over his face, and like, oh God, Robert Downey Jr.'s performance in this scene too. The two of them.
yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah, you see
And
why
it's
I have
just
to put on Endgame after this. Can't leave it right there.
right.
It's
No.
like leaving Han Solo in Carbonite. I can't do it. Doesn't matter that it's 2 o'clock in the morning. I need to put on the last hour of Endgame. Can't do it. It's like
Yeah.
doing shaving a haircut and not saying 2 bits after it. You can't do it.
Right.
You can't
Yeah,
leave Spider-Man dusted.
it's bad. Yeah, and this leaves us in such a bad position that, it's half of everybody's gone, half of all the heroes are gone, and some of the big ones as well. So it's like, what are they gonna do? Like, it leaves it in such a bad place. And then, at the end we get the in bit with Hill and Fury,
Yep.
and Fury starts getting dusted and manages to, use his little beeper
Send a
for
page.
yeah, send a page.
Send a page out to Carol. Carol, we
Yeah,
need you.
So, which is great. We hadn't had the Captain Marvel movie yet at that point,
Mm-hmm.
so it was great. We were like, okay, she's coming.
She's
And we all knew
coming.
the movie was coming anyway, so it was great. But yeah, it's this is a this to sum it all up, this is just a bummer of a fucking movie. And that's, I can't understand why anybody says that this is their favorite of any of them, let alone of this and Endgame. But
You know what? I
like,
can kind
I
of get
like
it though.
I get it to an extent. Yes, I get that it's a good movie. It's a
Mm-hmm.
great movie. It's got everything you want to happen in it
Mm-hmm.
and more. It's got huge stakes. Um, there are people left dead in this that will never come back, not in
Mm-hmm.
the way that we want them to. And it's, don't get me wrong, I know people like bummer movies. Um, I'm not one of them.
No,
Um,
clearly I'm not.
I don't, I like bummer movies sometimes. I like movies
Mm-hmm.
that kind of end in a bad place. But not my MCU movies.
No,
So it was just like, and to wait, what was it? Was it another year? Was it only a year?
I think it was six
I think it
months.
was, well, I think it was the next year because we still had to get through Ant-Man and the Wasp and Captain
Oh,
Marvel.
right. So we did, yes.
So we did
And
have
I
to wait
remember,
almost
oh
another
my
year.
God, the end credit scene of Ant-Man and the Wasp. I remember
Yeah.
sitting there with my daughter, and both of us just went, no! We just started
Yeah.
yelling.
So I'll definitely be getting into that in my next episode.
Good
Um,
times, good times.
yes, yes. But yeah, this movie's really good. I love it. It's the great culmination of everything we'd been leading up to. That this one and Endgame are the great 1-2 punch
Mm-hmm.
of everything. Um,
Absolutely.
and it's I don't know. I It's just a bummer, but I love it. It's still a good
It's a
movie. It's high up
it's
there
a
for me.
bummer.
But
It's a good movie, and I think that in these franchise type things, sometimes when you have like a two-parter finale, if you will. This wasn't the finale for the MCU, but it was the finale
right,
for
the
the
Infinity
Thanos
Saga. Yeah,
thing. So the first movie sometimes will just feel like a bunch of setup. You sit around for
yeah,
2 hours. And I don't think that this is a bunch of setup. I think that there's a lot of payoffs in here. I
yeah,
think that there's a lot of, as we've said, there's a lot of things in here that give you it like a stake and something that will never be able to be fixed. So there's
yeah,
no undoing it in the next movie or any of the other movies. I think that this movie does a really good job of setting all of that up, telling a complete story, and yeah, leaving you really bummed out, but
yeah,
like I this is better than some other movies I can think of that just,
yeah,
give you 2 hours of garbage, and then, next time in our big cash grab on the second movie,
yeah, yeah,
you will get your whole story. I think this gives us a whole story. It is shot very well. It's
yeah,
structured great. Everybody gets a moment. Some of the like best
yeah.
performances in here. I noticed maybe for the first time that Scarlett Johansson's face when they find Vision's body is she's so horrified that
Wow, I didn't notice that.
I was looking
Yeah,
at her and I was like, girl, you are like, this is like your Oscar clip. Like
yeah,
she is giving it everything she's got. And that, everybody was in it
oh yeah,
110,000%. And I love that.
yeah.
Absolutely
And
loved it.
that's what I love about these movies too, is that everybody who is involved seems to have enjoyed them, and been, even though people like Robert Downey Jr. and Chris Evans and even Scarlett Johansson, they've gotten out of it now. They're just
Mm-hmm.
like, we're pretty much done at this point. That I still love that they gave it their all up until
Yeah.
that point, that they were a part of it. They did everything they want, and they still have admiration for it as
Yep.
well. Like, I don't hear any of them ever talking about, like, now going back and going, you know what, it was like there were bits and pieces I didn't like.
Right.
um but I mean, and I'm sure there are, don't get me
Mm-hmm.
wrong, but there's always going to be stuff that they didn't like about it, but in the end, that they enjoyed it and they thought it was worthwhile enough that it was worth doing.
Yeah.
And that, and you don't hear that about a lot of other stuff.
No.
so especially a lot of other franchises.
Mm-hmm.
So
No, it's great. I love
so
that.
it's great. Yeah. So again, it just speaks to the testament of the filmmakers,
Mm-hmm.
Kevin Feige himself, and everybody involved in making that all work,
Yeah.
as well as they have. And even to this day, I still, despite unevenness with maybe Phase 4 and everything like that, I still think that they they maintain what they've been doing, and it's still for me a quality product and quality storytelling and
Yes.
filmmaking. So.
Absolutely. Hard agree. Well, we've reached the end of my notes because
We
my
all
my
right.
my last note is go fuck yourself, you grape bastard.
Yeah, because he gets to just sit there in the
He
sunlight on his
sits in
planet and
his
all smug.
stupid cabin. What is his cabin?
Yeah,
He's making stew or whatever shenanigans he's up to in there. Like, I just killed half the universe. Let's celebrate.
yeah,
Oh God.
yeah, no. But yeah. Well, that's all I got for this episode as well. So
Yep.
why don't you let
We
people know
did
where they
it.
can find you?
Yay.
Yay!
We did
Why don't you let
it.
people know where they can find you online then?
Yay. You can find me on, I refuse to say the other thing. I'm on Twitter and on Blue Sky at Violet H310. On there, you can see the link to my link tree that has all of my podcast guest appearances. I am about to be on a whole bunch of stuff. The one thing that's kind of really fun that I'm super excited about is I am a part of a Disney series for Den of 10. And we're having a great time putting that together. I love recording with those guys. So we're doing, if you're interested in the podcast, it's a top 10 list where everyone puts together their own personal top 10s, and then we work together to create a collaborative top 10.
Oh, okay.
So the episode that's coming out soon that we just recorded is the pre-Renaissance Disney animated movies. So that is 1937 through 1988, and
Okay.
it was a blast. I'm really excited for people to hear that one.
Yeah, and I'll definitely have to check that out as well. And I got to get myself a guest appearance on that show as well at some point. So
Yes. Oh, you'd have so much fun with Sam and Ed. They're so much fun. Sometimes they do look for people to do like horror movie type stuff because
yeah,
I think
okay.
they did Slasher or something. Yeah, reach out to them on the Discord.
Yeah, definitely.
Do it. That's all on the We Made This Podcast Network.
Yeah. No, the We Made This group, they're great. I've been on a couple of their shows, and with more to come.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I'll definitely have to check that out. I've got at least four guest appearances coming up on related We Made This shows. So
Yay.
and
I know
I
one
have
of
them on.
them.
Yeah. But yeah, it's a lot of fun. Go check out her stuff. She's become a professional podcast guest
Oh,
now. One of these days, she's actually going to create her own podcast, I'm sure.
maybe I'll do a show. I have to come up with a good idea though.
Yeah. I mean,
Hard.
she's
There's
even
a
got
lot of
professional equipment now. So,
I know I have my fancy microphone now.
yeah, no, it's been great having you on again. This is your second time on the show. You got one more coming up that I know of for sure. Oh yeah, two. One next year, one this year.
One next
Um,
year, one
yeah,
this year. Yes.
yeah,
Ooh,
and I'm
and
sure
that
you'll
one
be
I'm going to
on
be real excited about. The
the upcoming one or the one next year.
the upcoming one. I mean,
Okay, good.
both of
Yeah,
them, but yeah, we're going to have a that's going to be a real good conversation.
yeah, definitely. Yeah, no, so and she's actually, she's been on the geeky side of things for these last two episodes that she's been on. She's actually coming over to the creepy side, which is
Hmm.
unusual for her because she's not a
It
big horror
is.
person.
I
So
am
but
not,
yeah,
but this is my what we're going to talk about is my jam, so we're good to go.
yeah, so yeah, so it should be a lot of fun. So all right, well, thank you again. I
Yeah.
appreciate you coming on the show, and
Thank you
we'll
so
we'll
much for
be
having
hearing from
me.
you again soon. Yeah,
Yes.
all right.
Yeah.
Thanks again to Violet for joining me. On Monday, Angel Cross returns to the show to talk about Bride of Chucky and Seed of Chucky. And on Friday, Jason LeBlanc joins me to talk Ant-Man and the Wasp. Thanks for listening. Creepy and Geeky is a part of the Morbidly Beautiful Podcast Network. please check out morbidlybeautiful.com/podcasts for more great shows. If you like what you've heard, please consider giving the show 5 stars and a review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Also, please share the podcast on social media to help spread the word. Make sure to subscribe on your favorite podcast app or at creepyandgeeky.com. Music for the podcast is Gratitude, composed by Jerry Smith. You can follow the podcast on social media at Creepy and Geeky on both Twitter and Instagram. If you'd like to follow me, I'm GeekThulu on Twitter and Blue Sky, and geek.thulu on Instagram. You can support the podcast by ordering teas and more on TeePublic or by donating to the coffee page. All of the links are in the show notes. Finally, don't forget, stay creepy.